Maybe you have heard or used the phrase, "what a mess." We typically use the phrase to describe a situation or a state of affairs that are confusing, troubling, or wrought with difficulties. It, by definition, can also be used to euphemistically describe dog excrement. Didn't think you'd hear that today, did you? But let's be honest, life is messy for sure, and full of difficult circumstances and situations to navigate. But how many messes can we manage or navigate at one time? The reason I mention this is because of something I was reminded of while talking to a campus missionary recently. It's hard to stay on mission when we're always busy managing messes. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said already, we will have to deal with difficult situations in this life, and every troubling situation is not a distraction from God's mission. Sometimes it's a part of God's mission for us. Maybe the best thing to do is define the type of messes I'm thinking about in this case. I'm referring to messes that would fall into the category of things that should have been handled with emotionally healthy relational work. I can mention this from experience. When we don't do the hard work of relationships in an emotionally healthy way, we end up creating bigger messes that other people have to step in, literally, and then help us clean it up. I have been on the side of creating messes. And as a pastor, I've had my share of having to step into other people's messes because they could not or would not work things out in a biblical way. Another mess that can rob you of being on mission is the one created by the sin of gossip, backbiting, and slander. You see, even if something that has been said is not true, the one being talked about still has to spend inordinate amounts of time trying to clean up the damage that these mouth sins did. Not to mention the mental and emotional strain this places on the person whose character, integrity, or life is being called into question. Finally, another mess that steals our time is the pointless, empty arguments Paul cautioned Titus about in Titus chapter 3, verse 9. He said this, "But avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless." You see, empty arguments are divisive arguments, and divisive arguments are typically the product of divisive people. That's why it is a mess that distracts from the mission, maybe more than anything else, because part of our mission as the church is to be unified. So Paul is serious when he says in the next verse to reject a divisive person because divisive people engage in empty arguments, and empty arguments divide churches. Again, I'm not saying that there are not times for rigorous debates and healthy relational work through conflict. There is. But when someone's own internal mess manifests in them by them always being contrary or divisive, with no consideration of personal change, then we should not be distracted by such people and such arguments. Don't get pulled into that frustratingly futile scenario. Back to my main reason for discerning correctly where to spend our time. It is so that messes don't distract us from the more important task at hand, and that is the mission God has given us as His church. When we are consumed with foolish debates, faith suffers, and the mission and the witness of the church suffers. Probably why Paul also said something about this type of thing to Timothy as well. 2 Timothy 2:23. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know they produce quarrels. Our time on this earth is short, and the magnitude of our mission cannot be overstated. So I want to encourage you to discern rightly where and how you spend your time. Not every mess is one God has called you to clean up. Stay on mission. Continue to do all that God has called you to do. Don't be distracted. Don't be deterred. And I know God will be glorified in and through your life.